Hey there Titans, in this video we'll talk about formula variables in Titan Web, often called as power variables as well, power field. Alright, so you can have formula variables on page as page variables and on global variables as well. If you need to know which one to choose from, please refer to our earlier videos on variables. Most commonly I think will be on page, since what these formula variables will do is calculate different fields depending on what you need. So your first option is numeric variables, so any arithmetic type calculations you want to run, these are great. So let's do a quick example. Let's just say we want to have two number fields, and we'll do 1 and 2, and this will be number field 1 and this will be number field 2. And we could have, let's say, third number field that will be the result. Great. And now I'll head over to my page variables and I'll say numeric, and it gets a name by default, but I could name it whatever I want. Add num1, num2. And just like I named it, what we could do is say number field 1 plus number field 2. And the cool thing about this thing is that I could spit the value out to whatever I want. I don't have to. I could use it like that and map it to Salesforce, or use it in conditions and so on and so forth. I can access the value directly of the numeric, but if I want to directly in the number variable, but if I want to spit this out to an element, Titan allows me to do it as well. In this instance, I'll map the result of this calculation here to the res element. And whenever working with variables, we want to see what we're dealing with. So you always want to head over to Tools and turn on Debug Mode so we can see it in the preview. So now if I'll take a look at the debug, I can see that add num1 plus num2 is equals to 0. But if I'll do 2 and 2, my result is 4. And I can play with it however I like, and I could multiply any arithmetics I want to run. I could run it, and this is really cool. But very simplistic usage of it, and I'll show you a few other things with repeated strips or with power tables, with any table. You can like calculate fields, number fields, really cool. Alright, similarly to number variables, we could also have a string variable, and what a string variable will do is concatenate a bunch of variables together. So let's just say we'll have, let's get rid of these. And let's put a couple of text fields. And I'll head back to the page. And again, you could have this as a global variables by heading to Tools, Variables, and configure it over there, depending on what you need. And I'll call this concat. And this, again, very simple. You can concat text fields together very simply. And we'll do this, and obviously we can spit this out to an element just like we've done with the number variable. This time we're just going to show it in the debug, and if I'll run this, I get the concat together. And notice there is a space there. It tends to add space, so you want to make sure if you don't need a space, you can make sure to remove it. So let's just see that this works, and we'll take a look at the debug. And we have our concatenation working beautifully. All right, so our third type, we covered numbers and strings. Very briefly, I'll show you a few more use cases of it in just a minute. Our third and most powerful formula field is custom JavaScript. Custom JavaScript variable allows you to collect any information from elements in Titan and manipulate it in JS, and then either spit the value or use it in conditions or for Salesforce mapping, so on and so forth. So most commonly people will use it for manipulations of dates and sometimes advanced calculations that has to be done via JS. In this instance, what I will do is, again, it has no real relationship to the real world, but just to show the power of this, what we will do is we will collect the number from an element and we will check if it's Fibonacci sequence number or not. So let's add a numeric field real quick. and this one we'll type in and we will print the result to a string. So we'll put in a text element. We will say if it's a Fibonacci or not. Okay, in order for us to do it, we'll head back to our custom JS. I'm just gonna type in real quick Fibonacci function. All right, so I have a quick function here that will tell us if inputted number in our number field is a Fibonacci sequence or not. It's very simple. We just take first two numbers and add them together, and the result is Fibonacci or not. Deal is we have to start from 0 until we find if our number is Fibonacci or not. If it surpassed it, then we'll exit and we'll say not Fibonacci. If it's exactly is a Fibonacci, we'll say that it is a Fibonacci number. Obviously, this is by all means we want to check here first if it's 0 or 1 and return true immediately. We can also check for 2 and so on, all the first lines that we already know. Obviously, we want to put it in the memory and check it, but this is just a fun example of the JS. All right, so this is just a simple function, and now how do we interact with our element? So we will say that none to check, and we'll say that it equals to our number field. And one more thing we want to do here is check that none to check is populated. And if it is, then we want to return is fib, and we will pass in none to check. Else we can return. And we want to spit this out to our text, so it will tell us if it's a Fibonacci or not. Perfect. All right, let's run this real quick. So we'll refresh, we'll get our number, and let's try a number like 9, which should not be Fibonacci, and we'll try 8, which is Fibo. Let's do something higher. 34 still Fibo, 35 not Fibo, and let's do something bigger like 514,229, which is Fibo, and let's change it out to 228, not Fibonacci, working beautifully. So this is just a fun JS show off here. All right, again, usually you'll probably not use it, just to show you how advanced you can get with JS here. All right, so normal usages of formula fields. What's cool about formula fields? So let's say if you had a repeated strip here. So if I'll go like this, and I'll add a text field and a text field, and let's say I'll map this from contacts. So I'll do text 1, text 2, and let's say we'll do emails. And I'll say that this is a repeated strip. You can repeat a column as well, works the same way. And just a little side note here, whenever you repeat strips, you also have internal custom variables, and you can have custom formula fields on that strip, and that will be in the context of the strip. So anything you concatenate to will be that iteration of the strip, the repeated strip. And if you put anything on the page or the global variable, then it will iterate through everything you have on that repeating strip and concatenate the entire value. So let's do a quick demonstration here. I'll run a quick get, and I'll say, let's say I want to bring contacts back, and I'll say up to, let's just do 5 contacts here. That should do it, and let's run it on load. Again, you should not use it. This is just a dummy condition. This is why I'm using it, because it's the fastest for me. And what I'll say, count ID is not empty, and I don't care whatever it brings back, it's okay. And I'll say repeat text field 1, I'll say first name, and I'll say last name, and I'll say email, and I'll hit apply, and this will run on load. And let's just preview to see that we're getting any data, and we have 5 records over here. Now the cool thing with custom variables is, custom formula variables is, that if I'll add anything on the page or as a global variable, let's just say we'll do a string formula, and I'll concatenate text field 1 and text field 2, and I can obviously add a separator in them. Like I could say this is last name and this will be first name and this will be email. And I will apply it. What we should see now, we did not spit it out anywhere, but we should see now is the entire concatenation of the string we have and across all the repeated strips. So this is really cool. And again, if we wanted it to be scoped just for a single iteration of the repeat strip, we would place that variable inside the repeating strip. This is more of a common usage of formula fields, just to show you how it behaves whenever you are heading into collection. Another thing you can do with it is obviously use it in a table. So in a table, and especially in a power table, you have a summary row, so you don't really need to use it unless you have a specific use case for it. But in general, like if we would do something like opportunity, this is, I'm just going to show a number field here, and I'll say amount is greater than 0. And we'll add the name and the amount. And what I will do is add on the page, and again on the power table you have a summary row. You don't need to do it this way. I'm just showcasing usages of power formula fields. And what we will say here is I want to concatenate the amount from the power table, the amount column from the power table. And what this will give me, let's just name it because we're getting lost here. So we'll get rid of this and we shall get rid of this. And I'll call this amount from PT, and this will be total amount. And that's all we're doing. And obviously we can now do any arithmetics on it, multiply it by something else. If you want to do percentages or whatever it is you want, you can multiply it by another field or add other things to it. You can have a lot of use cases here. This is just a simple demonstration. And if we'll run the preview now, and we will look at the debug again, we did not spit this out anywhere to an element, and we get the total of the opportunities we have is 3,485,511. So it basically looked at every single amount row, every single opportunity we have returned, and calculated the entire amount for the entire table. So this is a quick show of how to use formula variables in Titan Web, and this is how it's done.